And that means the same for the velocity of money. So there's never enough money in the system to pay all the debt. So money has to circulate at a certain level of speed in order to service all the debts that are out there. But what a lot of people don't know is that the rest of the world has an equivalent amount of debt. But if you actually drill down into corporates and some other, the shadow banking system, it's probably 25 or 30 trillion dollars outside the United States that people that don't operate in the dollar owe in dollars. And again, when the demand for the dollar comes for paying the interest on those dollar loans and paying those dollar loans back. So the demand for dollars is kind of through the roof. Yeah.
So a quick question. So your thing is the dollar's going to get stronger. It's going to lift the U.S. economy and all our tangible assets here. But what is the demise? When's it break?
I think ultimately the monetary system is just not designed for the dollar to get stronger. And as it does so, it's going to just wreck the global economy. I mean, I think the rest of the world is going to just go through really, 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 difficult time. And ultimately, that's not good for the U.S. either. So as the dollar continues to get stronger, despite the Fed's efforts to, bring it lower, I think eventually the world will have to come together in another Bretton Woods type conference or another Plaza Accord type conference. And I think they'll have to either write debts down or introduce a new currency or reset the system in some form or another. And I think when that happens, that will be the point at which the dollar will start to lose value. That would be the point at which people no longer are rushing into the dollar and rushing into the United States. Maybe that's the time to go buy things in Canada or buy things in Australia or buy things in Argentina or buy things in Turkey, right? Because their assets will be very discounted. And I think as capital then leaves the U.S. to go invest in those other places, that will cause the dollar to go down.
The capital is running out of the dollar.
Exactly. You were talking about cash flow. Nothing is more important than cash flow. Right. If cash is flowing in, you're in good shape. And if cash is flowing out, that's a bad thing. And so, as capital rushes into the U.S., I think that'll be good for the U.S. Eventually, when it runs out of the U.S., I think that will be bad for the U.S. Right. I just don't think we're there yet. The whole COVID virus has caused global trade, global travel, global movement to stop. And that means the same for the velocity of money. So there's never enough money in the system to pay all the debt. So money has to circulate at a certain level of speed in order to service all the debts that are out there. When money velocity falls, money doesn't circulate, people miss their payments, defaults happen, and you get a contraction. That's a credit contraction. And so what the central banks do is they pump liquidity in to try to counteract that lack of velocity. And so what this COVID and the lack of the flow of money is making the global economy come in under even more pressure than it was before. It makes it even harder to get those dollars to service that dollar debt. And so I think it's kind of accelerating the downside of the milkshake. But here's the flip side, is they're going to print all these dollars and all this currency, right? And so when the COVID does leave and money is start to flow again, now you've got a lot more money out there. And now it's flowing, so that's a recipe for inflation. But first you get the deflation, you print all the money, and then when the money starts to move, you get high levels of inflation because there's so much liquidity now.
What's your forecast for European zone with the euro?
Yeah.
And you have the English, and you have the Japanese. What do you see in each country?
So I think the euro is probably going to go away, or it's not going to continue to exist in its current form. I think on a price basis, it goes to at least 80. So it probably goes down 25 or 30% from here. I think the yen might be, I think the yen's going to go to at least 150, maybe to 2.
It's going back to where it came from.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, essentially, I think the dollar's going to go back to its all-time high. And I think the rest of the world's currencies, even the big ones, are going to get cut in half.
So if you're living in Japan, that means life will get more expensive.
Absolutely.
Same as euro.
Absolutely. And so that's what I say about gold. If you're not a US dollar investor, you can probably back up the truck on gold right now. I think gold may still have a tough time in US dollar terms. When everybody needs dollars, you sell whatever you can to get dollars. Outside of Japan, nobody needs yen. Outside of Europe, nobody needs euros. Outside of Argentina, nobody needs Argentinian pesos. But the whole world needs dollars.
And how does Bitcoin play into all this?
Bitcoin's an interesting one. I own Bitcoin. I think if you have the ability and you have some space in your portfolio for speculation, you should own some Bitcoin. I don't think it replaces gold. I think it's in addition to gold. It's a very asymmetric play. I think it probably either goes to $1,000, which is be down, or it goes to 100,000 or $1 million. And so it's either all or nothing kind of a thing.